Welcome back to the C.T.W. podcast. This video here is going to be for people who are serious and curious about why they do some of the things that they do. Maybe I can give you some insight and maybe enlighten you on certain portions of your life and certain parts of your life. The video is going to be called, "Why Do You Keep Sabotaging You?" Stay tuned. When it comes to self-sabotage, we all self-sabotage ourselves in one way or another, whether that may be with our fitness goals, whether that may be in finances, whether that may be in relationships, whether that may be in business, whether that may be in marriage. We all self-sabotage ourselves in some way or another. And the thing about it is that understanding what self-sabotage is the quickest way for you to be able to overcome it. And so Hosea 4:6 says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." So when you don't even know where or what it is or where to start, the enemy will always be able to keep you in bondage. You will never be able to overcome self-sabotage. And so I wrote doing some research, I kind of wrote down what self-sabotage was. And it says, when people do or don't do things that block their success or prevents them from accomplishing their goals. And so if you are you have a specific goal, you wrote the goal down, you started the year, you wrote your New Year's resolution, you wrote down what you're going to do in the year, and you were going well for the first 2 weeks, and then life started happening. Certain things started happening. You started to revert back to some old habits and some old patterns that you were doing in a previous season of your life or before the new year started. And you kind of got lackadaisical. You kind of started becoming relaxed when it came to accomplishing the goal that you really wanted to have for your life. Really wanted to accomplish this year. And so 2 weeks in, you started going back to old habits and old things. And so when you self-sabotage yourself, you're really undermining who you are. You're really not holding yourself accountable to what you're saying is that you don't deserve the goal, the dream, or the vision that you're going after by allowing your feelings, your thoughts, or emotions to overtake you in the moment. And so because it is a natural thing, we do it, and sometimes is consciously and sometimes we do it subconsciously, but you do it in a way to sabotage you as a person. And so what it does is that it prevents you from accomplishing your goals. It prevents you from accomplishing your dreams. It prevents you from accomplishing personal things that you have for yourself, as well as professional. Anytime anything dealing with success, anything dealing with your goals, anything dealing with your dream, anything dealing with having peaceful marriage, anything dealing with having a prospering business, anytime that anything like that comes up, you find a way to get yourself out of it because you aren't used to it. You're scared. You don't really know what to do. You don't believe that you can handle everything that comes with it. And so a lot of times we as people, we want successful things. We want a great life. We want these things, but no one really teaches you how to handle it when you get it. No one teaches you how to handle it, how to go towards it. And so because no one actually teaches it to you, what happens is that when you start to get a taste of it, now you start to say all types of stuff to yourself. Maybe you don't believe that you can. Maybe you start to have doubts. Maybe you don't believe in you as much as you did. You can believe in God as much as you want to believe in God, but until you start to believe in yourself enough to the point where it's like, okay, God said I can have this, and I have to believe that I can sustain this. I can manage this. I can be successful in this area. And so understanding that self-sabotage, how do you know if you have self-sabotage? It says it creates problems daily, interferes with your life goals, such as procrastination, self-medication, comfort eating, and self-harm. And so understanding that there are multiple ways where you can self-sabotage yourself. Like, for example, one of the examples is procrastination. I'll give you this piece about me. So being in school, and people that are close to me know this, being in school, I used to wait to the very last minute to do any schoolwork. I mean, any. Like, when it came to quizzes, when it came to homework, I would wait. So they would give homework out the night before, and I would wait until I got in school in that class, because I understood the teacher would take the work up at the end of class. So I would wait till I got in school in that specific class to start doing the work. And me not really realizing it at the moment, it was really me procrastinating. It was me self-sabotaging myself. And so what we have to realize is that when you build up habits and patterns of self-sabotage, especially when you're not aware of it, what happens is that you build familiarity with it. You build a habit of just doing it. And most people will say, oh, he's just very intelligent. Or you might even tell yourself, hey, I'm just very intelligent. I only work better when I got my back up against the wall. Whereas that's true for certain situations. But if you don't have to produce or have to be in a situation where your back is up against the wall, why put yourself in it? And so that's one of the reasons. That's one example of how you can procrastinate. The other example could be self-medication. So that could be, say, for instance, if you work a job, or say, for instance, if one of your goals is that I'm going to get more disciplined, I'm going to be more focused, I'm going to pay attention, I'm going to read more, I'm going to go to seminars, I'm going to do these things. And so you start to self-medicate. So you may, whether it may be smoking weed, whether it may be a drink, whatever the situation or circumstance may be, you may start to do those things and fall into a habit or a pattern of now building a crutch of, if I don't do this, I don't function properly. That is one of the quickest ways for you to self-sabotage yourself, and then for the enemy to take you self-sabotaging yourself and keep you in bondage, is by you saying that I only function properly when I do this. I only function right when I do this. I only function to the best of my capability when I am high or when I am drunk. Now, that is one of the things that keeps a lot of people from actually reaching their full potential and who God called them to be. Not their potential compared to their favorite influencer or who they like or who they want to be, but who God called them to be. And so when you're looking at potential, you should never compare yourself to someone else. You should compare yourself to who God said you can be. Another one is comfort eating. I know people personally that do this. And the thing I do want to say is that we all have them, but they all may not be in a certain area. So I don't want you to hear me say something and then think just because I did not say the thing that you may be dealing with, it does not mean you don't have it. And it's arrogant of you to think just because I didn't say the thing that you may be dealing with, that you may not have it. And that's really the biggest thing. But comfort eating. Comfort eating is when you now have, for instance, you say you have a goal to lose 60 pounds. And so your goal is to lose 60 pounds by the first 6 months of the year. And so now you're on your goal. Like I said, the first 2 weeks, you're doing everything you're supposed to do. You're tracking your calories. You're going to the gym. You have more calorie output than you have calorie intake. And so you're doing well. And you look at the scale and say, for the first 2 weeks, you're now down 3 pounds. So that's the first 2 weeks, you're down 3 pounds. And so then what happens is that because you take your foot off the gas, you now start to, maybe you go when you get a milkshake. Maybe you might go and you get some fried chicken. And there's nothing wrong with it. But the thing about it is that when you start to build a pattern or a habit, you are now self-sabotaging your goals, your dreams, and the visions that you have for your personal life. And so a lot of times we as people, we don't even realize that when we take our focus off of the goal, the dream, and the vision, we don't even understand that that can be a room that can be room and an opportunity for us to self-sabotage ourselves. It can prevent us from actually accomplishing the thing that we want to accomplish. You can wholeheartedly want to accomplish the goals, the dreams, and the visions, but when you take your eyes off of it, what happens is that now you start to let down your barriers, you start to let down your walls, you start to let down who you are, what you start to let down what you're going after, and then you start to revert back to how you were in the previous season or how you used to be. Another one could be self-harm. And so self-harm could be anything in terms of cutting yourself. It could be anything in terms of maybe you just like pain just to feel, maybe because you have such traumatic trauma and maybe you have a void that needs to be filled. Maybe you are self-harming yourself. Maybe you are putting needles in your arm or cutting yourself or doing all types of things. And I do want to say that if anyone who is doing that, tell somebody. One of the biggest things that the enemy likes to do with all people, not just specific people, but all people in any category, is to make you feel like you are alone, to make you feel like you are by yourself. And so you have to understand 1 Peter 5:9 says, but resist him, be rooted, established, immovable. For the same experience of suffering is being experienced all over the world, throughout the world by your brothers and sisters. And so you do not suffer alone. So one of the biggest tricks that the enemy likes to do is to make you feel as if you're the only person that's going through this, so that you can start to self-medicate, so that you can start to procrastinate, so that you can start to self-harm, so that you can now start to do things that are keeping you from accomplishing the goals, the vision, and the purpose that you have for your life, whatever that may be. And so the biggest thing when it comes to self-sabotage is just being honest with yourself. This conversation or this video is for people who are serious, not just curious about personal development, growing, figuring out who they are as a person, wanting to be better, wanting to grow, wanting to figure out, why do you act the way that you act? Why do you do certain things that you do? Why can't you just stop it? Why are you having a hard time just overcoming it? And so the just understanding that not one of them, but some causes of self-sabotage, low self-esteem. So low self-esteem is having low confidence in one's abilities or low respect for oneself. And so that's low self-esteem. Negative self-talk, how you talk to you. I know this is one of the areas that I had to deal with, is just how I talk to myself. And once I started talking to myself the way that God saw me, and talking to myself and believing in myself the way that God believed in me, having me self-sabotaging myself when it came to certain things was not as big of a fight as it was. Now, listen to what I said. I didn't say that it wasn't a fight. I just said it wasn't as big of a fight, because you have to understand is that the enemy is going to come back around when he feels like there is a more opportune time to attack you in a certain area that you were once weak in. And so understanding that was negative self-talk, negative emotion. So feelings of dislike towards yourself. So when you may not meet a certain standard or criteria that you think you should meet, now you start to downgrade yourself. You start to degrade yourself. You may not say it out loud, but you may say it to yourself. And you have to understand that is one of the ways that the enemy continues to fight a lot of people. I just said in 1 Peter 5:9, where he makes you feel like you're the only one that has ever messed up. He makes you feel like you're the only one who has ever been in the situation that you're in. You're the only one who has ever said something that was derogatory and messed up. You're the only one who has ever hurt somebody's feelings. You're the only one who has not intended to do something that was taken the wrong way. And so understanding that you are not by yourself. And so you have to be aware and have to talk to yourself. You have to tell yourself, hey, I'm learning, I'm growing. This is something that I'm going to have to. It's like going to the gym. You have to work that muscle. And if you've never worked the muscle, it's going to be weak. So you can't start it out with 50 pounds. You might need to start it out with 5 until you progressively overload it. And then you start to grow and build over time. And so those are some of the causes that cause you to self-sabotage yourself. So it would be low self-esteem. So having low respect for yourself. negative self-talk, and then having negative emotions and feelings, how you feel, how you talk. Well, negative self-talk, how you talk to you, and then negative emotions, which is a strong dislike, feeling strong dislike towards oneself. And so those are some of the areas where people may be dealing with. And so I just wanted to shine light on that. Now, let's get to the solution of those things. And so one of the things that you have to understand is that when you have when you deal with self-sabotage, you're going to have to realize, and I'll just tell this for anybody, to get something you've never got, you have to do something you've never done. And so to do the same thing over and over again and to expect a different result is called insanity. So that means if you're dealing with self-sabotage, and this works for any area of your life, but if you're dealing with self-sabotage, you have to get around people. You have to go to places. You have to listen to things. You have to do things that you've never done to get something you've never got. You have to get a therapist. You have to get a coach. You have to get around people who allow you to not talk negative about yourself, to not talk down about yourself, to not cause you to have negative emotions and feelings, to allow you to process those things. So you have to do something different too. If you really want to break and genuinely get understanding of who you are and why do you do some of the things that you do, you have to get something outside of you. And that's literally as plain as I can put it. And so some of the fixes is, one, something stronger than you. That would be God. That would be Jesus. That would be the word of God. Understanding that in John 10:10, it says, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. It says, but I've come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. So if Jesus came that we may have life and have it more abundantly, that means how you're living, you self-sabotaging yourself, you living on a level less than what God has called you for. That means you need to go see how Jesus lived his life, so therefore you can now live your life in the way that God actually calls us to live. Ephesians 3:20. I know I say this verse in just about every video. Now unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ever ask, think, or imagine, according to the work and the power that is within us. So it's going to take you, the power that is within you. And it doesn't have to be a lot of power. It says the power that is within you, for you to expect and think and do the things, for God to give you those things that is at work in you. So you're going to have to do things. You're going to have to work for it. And so in Psalms 113:4-6, I'll give you this verse right here. 4-6. And so it said, the Lord is high above all nations, and his glory is high above all nations. It says, who is like the Lord our God, who is enthroned in high heavens, who humbles himself to regard the heavens and the earth. And so reading that verse, understanding that God is above everything. He is literally, he sees what's happening on earth. He's up there in heaven. So you have to understand is that God sees all. He's stronger than all. So anything that you feel, anything that you may not like, anything that's going on in your life, God is bigger than that situation. And so understanding that you also have to monitor your behaviors, monitor your feelings, monitor your thoughts, and monitor the beliefs that you have about yourself. And so that is your responsibility. And what you fill yourself with in the moment is going to determine whether or not you are filtering your beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings, is filtering how you believe about yourself. So you have a responsibility. It is not all on God. So I'll tell you this, Proverbs 4:23, it says, guard your heart for from it flows all the issues of life. For from it flows everything. That's Proverbs 4:23. And so you have to understand is that it's your responsibility to guard your heart. And so how do you do that? So remember that your heart is your mind, your soul, and your spirit. So it's your responsibility to guard it because everything comes from it. And so then you have 1 Peter 5:8. And so 1 Peter 5:8, it says, be sober, well-balanced, self-disciplined, be cautious and alert. It says, for the enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, fiercely hungry, seeking whom he may devour. So it's telling you to be self-balanced. It's to be sober-minded, well-balanced, self-discipline. So it's telling you, it's not telling God to be that because God is already that. It's telling you to be that because we as humans have a tendency to drop our guard. We have a tendency to get lackadaisical, especially when we hit a goal or we accomplish something. And so understanding that, why do you keep sabotaging you, is because there are some things inside of you that need to be introspected upon, that needs to have self-awareness, that you need to be honest with yourself about. And until you are honest with yourself about those things, those areas, those emotions, those negative self-talks, those reasons why you can't accomplish anything, the reason why you accomplish it for a little while and then you go back, until you're honest with yourself, you're going to keep going through the same repetitive cycle. And so one of the things I'll end with is that just because you aren't suffering does not mean you're not in a cycle. And so you have to understand is that one of the ways that the enemy keeps people in the same cycle is to make them think the cycle that they're in isn't as bad. They aren't really suffering. They have certain things, but they don't have what God actually called and said that they can have. And so I appreciate you guys for watching, but that's pretty much all I have to say. And I'll see you guys next time.